Ah, wow. This lunar eclipse early this morning on the 8th was absolutely gorgeous. I hope everyone had a chance to experience it in one capacity or another. Here in Central Texas, I had a clear, crisp view of this eclipse. So I'm here to chat a little bit more about eclipse energy and maybe how we can use it to help determine, how to grow spiritually and self-development, or even just plan for, future mitigating factors. So I am Ivona Elizondo from Silver Moon Astrology and Transpersonal Counseling, also known as Silver Moon Counseling. And I have to show you my picture early this morning, actually, on the 8th. Yes, I was up early this morning with this eclipse, but check this out. This is the view that I had from my bedroom window. I literally propped up my pillows up against the side of my bed and opened the blinds, kicked my feet up on the windowsill, and was just watching this magnificent event happen. I had my natal chart with me, and it was absolutely gorgeous. But I was meditating during this time, like meditating with myself, meditating with the energy of the eclipse. And then it got me thinking about 6 months ago when the last lunar eclipse happened and how much my life has changed since then and how difficult my life has been for my ego and my emotional waters and all sorts of stuff, right? So that got me thinking about sharing with you how astrologers, or at least how this astrologer considers how the energies could potentially manifest for each individual eclipse. Ooh. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to share with you the bits and pieces of eclipses and give you an idea of how these tend to manifest. Okay. And I might use myself as an example. Maybe probably will. Okay. So eclipse energy in general for me tends to be unpredictable, unstable, potentially erratic, just inconsistent energy, right? It's the time when life creates instability for us to be able to, triple check our sense of self, our sense of ego, our sense of identity, so that we can determine whether we're on the right path or not. And that's usually not done in a very pleasant way. Eclipses tend to be more challenging in nature because they are not stable. Okay, they are very unpredictable energy. Now, for purposes of this video, I'm going to be referring to the 6-month cycle of the eclipse energy. There's various cycles that we can tap into, but I'm referring only to the 6-month cycle. Okay, so with that being said, the way that we determine whether an eclipse is going to happen is by addressing two very important points that pertain to the moon. Now, these are technical points. Okay, they're not necessarily real points, but they're technical points, which are real points, but they're more technical. Anyhow, it is the south node and the north node of the moon. Now, again, these are technical points. So the way that we determine eclipses is when the sun enters within 18 degrees, okay, of these technical points, we consider it to be an eclipse energy. Now, the closer in alignment that the sun is to these two technical points, the more totality that we're going to experience from this eclipse. So, and again, it could be a lunar eclipse and it could be a solar eclipse, but it's within this 18-degree basis. Now, early morning eclipse energy, the Taurus lunar eclipse that just happened a few hours ago, the sun was within 2 degrees of the south node and the moon was within 2 degrees of the north node. So that's why we refer to it as more total eclipse energy. So I hope that made sense. I don't want to get too technical here, but that's essentially what it is. So what I would like to do is show you the south node and the north node, and then give you an idea of how they function, and then how we put together, how I put together the ultimate energy for that eclipse. So we're going to start off by using, that's not true, I'm going to pull my charts. We're going to start off by using the eclipse that occurred in May. So 6 months ago, we talked about using 6-month eclipse cycle. Okay, so here we go. Here's the chart for May of 2022. And this was a lunar eclipse. So let me show this to you. Okay, so in May, we had the moon. This was a lunar eclipse. The moon conjunct or together with the south node of the moon. Again, that technical point that I just mentioned, okay? And it was in Scorpio, okay? On the opposite end, we have the sun, okay? And it was conjunct the north node of the moon and in Taurus, okay? So this is the energy that we were working with 6 months ago. Okay, so now let me pull up the eclipse that happened early this morning so we can see the difference between how these various eclipses work within the cycles. All right, here we go. Okay, here we go. Let me just share this. Oops, what happened? There we go. Okay, so this was this early morning. Now, remember, I said they run in cycles. So this time, the moon is together with her conjunct the north node in Taurus. Last time, it was the sun instead of the moon. Where's the sun this time? The sun is over here, okay, conjunct the south node, and it is in Scorpio water. So do you see how it switched? So 6 months, there's these cycles that tend to happen. So beginning and endings are really what eclipse energy represents for me, beginning and culmination. And with the culmination, there's a new beginning. Okay, so 6 months ago, when the moon was with the south node, I started a really bad cycle, like the worst cycle of my entire life. Yes, but before I get into that, let's talk about what the south node represents, okay, the upside down horseshoe, and what the north node represents, the right side up horseshoe, okay. The south node represents the past. It represents all the karmic stuff that you have already dealt with. When people say, hey, you ended that relationship, but you brought all that baggage with you, that's what the south node represents. Now, it could represent baggage from a previous life, karmic baggage. But if you don't tap into previous lives, that's okay. It could represent the stuff that happened to you early on in life. Like, who doesn't have stuff that happened early on in life that we still need to heal from? Okay, so it's the baggage that we're carrying. We already mastered this. We already experienced this. We don't really need it anymore. And maybe our soul or our sense of self doesn't realize that we don't need it anymore because it's very habitual. The South Node is about habits and patterns that we are very familiar with, even if they're toxic or dysfunctional. We are still in that mode of carrying those around. So the goal is to identify those themes that the South Node is, pulling forth. And so how do we do that? How do we release that? By looking at the north node. The north node represents movement forward. It represents releasing the south node. It represents the path. This is how you're going to progress. This is how your soul is going to grow. If you stay in the south node, not a lot of growth because you've already done this. In fact, it's patterns that are probably keeping you from growth. The north node is let's move forward. Let's tap into that healing energy that needs to happen. Okay, so that's one aspect. Now let's talk about the moon and the sun. So the moon represents our emotional state. Okay, it represents the emotions. It represents our perception of safety in life. It represents how we're perceiving our inner experience. The sun, on the other hand, represents our ego, our identity. It's how we, send ourselves out into the world. It's how we perceive our external experience. Moon, emotion, inside. Sun, ego, identity, external. Okay, so, well, I know that's a lot. I'm info dumping on you, but follow me here, okay? So last eclipse in May, we had the moon together with the south node. It's the karma stuff. It's the stuff that we've already learned. It's the more challenging stuff. And it was in Scorpio, which means that there was going to be a lot of in-depth stuff that came up. There was like psychotherapy kind of, essence, stuff from the past that bubbles up and needs to come up and needs to be, addressed. And it was probably dealing with those more difficult, themes like aesthetics and loyalty and betrayal and obsession and, maybe finances. Okay. So it was more of those deeper, more internalized type of emotional experiences. Now, the sun on the north node was telling us, hey, this is the direction you need to go to heal that. This is where you need to go. And it was in Taurus. It was about the body, and it was about representing your material, your physical experience. Okay. All right. So what happened to me? I had this pretty traumatic experience. Okay, I'm fine. Okay, but it has lingered for 6 months, and it literally was the south node of the moon, which tends to be very, very challenging during an eclipse. Like super yuck stuff comes up during this time. And it has propelled me into needing to do somatic therapy, like dealing with like my physical body, which is the sun in Taurus. And really readjusting my sense of identity and my sense of ego when it comes to this experience. Okay. All right. This time around, this eclipse that happened this morning was a lunar eclipse. The moon is connected to the north node this time. Okay. The south node is where we start because the sun, the sense of identity, ego, is with the south node. So maybe what I anticipate, and it's in Scorpio, what I anticipate is that if we are going to experience that karmic challenge, it is going to be about readjusting our identity. It's about experiencing those deeper emotional traumas, or maybe hurts, or maybe just injustices, or betrayals, okay, or lack of confidence, whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be super, super traumatic, okay? But it is going to be more challenging to our identity and to our ego and how we put ourselves out in the world. So how do we want to heal? We look to the north node, because this time around the north node is in Taurus. So we want to be able to heal and get a sense of safety in our environment, get a sense of safety in our internal experience about our world and how we fit into our world, how we're contributing to our community, maybe how we're contributing to our physical experience, maybe readjusting some of the things that our ego says. Yes, we want to go out and party all the time and just, drink. But that's not healthy, and it's creating trauma, and we're not healing. And so maybe we need to do some therapy work, or some somatic therapy, or some journaling, or some grounding, or some, just enjoying life and healing in a more natural, from a more natural point of view, because that's the north node. So I'm hoping that this cycle will help heal my body, because I took a big brunt to my body, super traumatic. And so I'm hoping that this is going to help me heal. I'm adjusting my ego. I'm hopefully adjusting my identity, right? But the goal is to be, at least from my perspective, be mindful, be aware. It's taken me 6 months. This has not been an easy 6 months at all. And frankly, I kind of lost my own way, right? The darkness of that eclipse 6 months ago didn't give me light. I've been touchy-feely, and I've been very, very emotionally distraught, during the past 6 months. I'm hoping that this new eclipse, pointing in the right direction, okay, is going to say, you know what, it's time to let go of the past, let go of all those hurts, and start doing what you need to do to heal. So that is a little bit of my story that I'm going to share with you. Eclipse energy can be challenging, okay, but it doesn't have to be super traumatic every single time. Okay, so again, it all depends on your own individual birth chart. So if you're interested in a consultation, you can find me at silvermooncounseling.org. I hope I've explained a little bit of what the eclipse, how the eclipse energy is, used to help identify cycles, and how you can use it for self-growth. South node past, north node future. Moon internal experience, sun external experience, and then we put it all together. All right, everyone, that is it. I am going to go take a nap, actually, because I was up really early this morning watching the eclipse, and it's time for a nap. Take care. Blessed be.